The Babylon Project was our last best hope for peace. It failed. But in the year of the Shadow War, it became something greater. Our last best hope for victory. The year is 2260. The place, Babylon 5.
Hello and welcome to Chats, a television podcast, Season 6, Chatzylon 5. My name is Alan, and I'm joined, as always, by Magellan.
Hey, what's up?
Hey, kid. It's nice to hear from you.
It's nice to hear from you too.
You too, kid. Good.
You too. Can I? All right. I was a U2 kid, but now that they're taking iTunes away.
I can't be a U2 kid anymore. Remember that controversy?
Yeah, the free album. I saw that on Twitter. Someone joking about that. So it's not original.
These are the things we worried ourselves about in what, 2015?
Let's look it up.
When was the YouTube album?
YouTube album. That was in
Yeah,
2014. September 2014.
Really?
Yeah, it was a September fall event.
God, we just different priorities.
Apple presented a free copy of U2 album Songs of Innocence to everyone with an iTunes account.
I think I listened to it. Mm-hmm. I think I listened to it. I don't remember anything about U2, to be honest with you, other than that one song that plays on the radio a lot. It's like a shitty... That still haven't found.
I have the sound in my head, like
what I'm looking for. Yeah,
that's as much a sound in my head as the music where everyone goes, "Hey!"
Oh, that's every song. You've identified every song.
Yeah. We can't say our show's on iTunes anymore, though, huh? They're getting rid of that.
Yeah, are they? What?
Oh, my bit doesn't even make sense to you. They're getting rid of iTunes.
What are you saying? Why?
They're replacing iTunes with like desktop versions of the apps that
Apple
you
Music.
have on your phone, like Apple Music, Podcast, whatever. They're splitting all of the different parts of iTunes up into different apps.
So we would just say it's on Apple Podcasts now.
Yeah, I guess so.
Interesting. And every other platform. That's where this podcast is. Chats, a television podcast where we talk about TV sometimes.
Yeah.
This week.
Let's do it.
Yeah, this week we are watching Babylon. We watched Babylon 5 Season 3. We're talking about it this week. The whole season, beginning to end. We're going to start by summarizing the season. We're going to then talk about our general thoughts on the season.
Yes.
Yes, Queen. Absolutely.
Yes. Finally, someone's doing the show that I want.
And then we're going to be doing everyone's favorite part of the Chats season recaps, which is the buckets.
Oh, of course. Yes.
Of course. Who could forget the buckets?
Oh, great.
And then we're going to wrap it up with some predicciones.
Yeah, and some emails somewhere in there.
Yeah, we'll squeeze an email or 4 in there at some point.
Alan, what happened in Season 3 of Babylon 5?
Well, Magellan, I'm so glad you asked.
Me too.
Cut for editing? No. So I this season's pretty busy, so I kind of just bullet pointed what happened in the season, and we're just going to talk about all these different plot points, because they kind of happen all around throughout. It's a weird season.
We'll hit them when we talk about the individual episodes also.
True. But it's a weird season because it still has that classic Babylon 5 filler that we just can't seem to shake off. And so on one week, a really amazing thing will happen. And then in another one, something really good will happen in a B plot. And then another episode is like a 2-parter, amazing, world-changing event. So very much up and down. But the biggest overarching plot point is the Shadow War.
Yeah.
It's mentioned in the theme song. Ivanova talks about how now the Shadows are actively getting ready to attack, and Sheridan, Dolan, and the rest of the Army of Light are fighting back against the unknown menace. Babylon 5, as they prepare to rev up for the Shadow War, decide that the Clark regime is corrupt. The Clark regime being on Earth, After they declared martial law on Earth, and it seems like everybody's okay with it, Babylon 5 says, "Nuh-uh, not us," and they declare themselves an independent nation.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, an independent planet.
Independent
whatever.
ship. Yeah. Station,
Entity.
excuse me. Station. Martial law on Earth basically just means that there's like the military controls the government, which is not fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
We also have the foundation of the aforementioned Army of Light. Delenn and Sheridan are instructed by Kosh that they need to form an army. And they get a ship. It's called the White Star. It's an ancient Minbari vessel. And they also enlist the help of the Rangers, which are sort of an invisible squad of assassins all across the galaxy, and that have also installed themselves on Babylon 5. One of the main Rangers is a man named Marcus Cole, who joins the main cast this season somewhat.
Of course.
Bit of a handsome British lad.
Yeah.
Kind of develops feelings for Ivanova, which is not good because she is gay, and he's kind of okay, I guess. They have a weird back and forth. He has a big staff. Most of his good character work is done with individual characters in the background or somewhere in the down below.
Mm-hmm.
Traditional tragic backstory, that sort of thing. Franklin develops a really severe stims addiction because there are a lot of dying people coming into Babylon 5 between all the Narn refugees and just all of the combat that's been happening. There's a lot to do. And so to cope with the stress, he starts taking a lot of stims, which keep him up 24/7, and he eventually develops a really terrible habit. And to kind of, once with the help of Garibaldi, figures out that this is a problem, he quits his job as head doctor on the ship, on the station, and he goes on a walkabout around Babylon 5. And on the walkabout, he learns the value of his job, the value of self-identifying, and he finds himself. He quite literally finds himself. And in finding himself, he learns, oh, I can just work this job. I can just go back to doing this now. I guess I'm not addicted to drugs anymore. It's not handled amazingly, but it's handled, which is kind of not the best part of the season. But regardless, it's important. Jakar tries to save his people and often has a lot of difficulty with that. He goes down to the Narn homeworld at one point in one of the best episodes of the season that ties his plot back in with Londo's. Londo realizes at this point in the show that the shadows are not to be trusted entirely, and so he tries to distance himself and his work from Morden and the shadows, but doesn't really succeed because Londo never succeeds. He's the most eternally owned man in space, and in trying to do that, he incurs their wrath, and they start basically making conflict between him and Rifa. They kill Adira from season 1, which and then they blame it on Rifa, which makes Londo kind of turn all of his anger and attention towards killing Rifa and becoming Emperor of Centauri Prime. In the episode that we're talking about, which is in the Rock Hideout, No Hiding Place, while Jakar is on the Narn homeworld, as well as Rifa, who's there for political reasons, Londo comes in as a hologram and says, "Hey, I have all of your men, and also these Narn are also in my pocket, so you're screwed." And we get an amazing classic musical montage. What's the word for that? Not montage, but just a music.
It's just a sequence, yeah.
Yeah, a musical sequence where he's killed, where Rifa is brutally killed by the Narn. We have that. We have some other brief things to hit. Lita comes back to the ship now. Lita and the monks are both things that happen that seem important but aren't that important. Lita Alexander, back from the Gathering, is here, and she's the new telepath now that Talia is gone. She seems fine. She has a really intense attachment to Kosh, which is important because Kosh is kind of like leaving his legacy behind in this season and trying to make sure everything is good because he senses that things aren't going to go well soon. After some serious conflict between Kosh and Sheridan, Morden is on the ship, and Morden and the Shadows assassinate Kosh. Our boy is dead. They are left with just his helmet, and they put the rest of his remains in his ship, and it goes to bury him in space. Veer is also in this season. He gets really woke after going on to the Minbari homeworld for a little while. He kind of learns that they're not that bad. We don't need to go to war with them. This causes a lot of tension between him and Londo, who says that it's not worth working with them if they're already a bad race of people. It's not even worth trying to court them.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of tension between our two friends. And speaking of class conflict, Minbari class conflict heats up, and it seems like they're boiling up to something really serious because not everybody is happy that Delenn is sort of taking more of a leadership role.
Mm-hmm.
And so it seems like under the surface there may be some sort of civil conflict coming up with the Minbari.
Yeah. We'll probably see more of that next season.
For sure. Also worth mentioning, kind of separate from a lot of this stuff, Jeffrey Sinclair comes back this season. And reveals a lot of things all at once. Basically, back in season 1, Babylon Squared was an episode where Sinclair was on the ship with Garibaldi on Babylon 4, which is the Babylon ship station before Babylon 5. And he saw a future version of himself, and he saw weird things and time travel stuff. And we find out that he actually is the reason for all of that stuff. And it was part of a mission to send Babylon 4 back in time to help the Vorlons and the early Minbari society to win the first Shadow War. This is like 900 years before the rest of the series. Mm-hmm. Sheridan also reveals in this moment that the sort of guise that he put on when he went back is the holy figure Valen from Minbari society. And so we come to understand that Sheridan is who we always thought of as Valen, and him and their discussions of how each person needs to be a worker or a religious type or a military type was the basis for Minbari society forming so long ago. Mm-hmm. So we mentioned that's most of the big stuff, and then the season sort of ends with the reintroduction of who we think is Anna Sheridan, and while it is her body, it turns out to actually be the Shadows sort of like bringing back her body to life.
The Shadow agenda.
Exactly. And she instructs John that he needs to come to Zahadum. He must, despite the fact that Kosh told him that if you go to Zahadum, you will die. Mm-hmm. He meets there both Morden, Anna, and Justin, who is just another shitty talking puppet of the Shadows. They basically tell him, hey, the Shadows are cool. They want chaos. They want people to figure out things for themselves and to kill each other, and the strongest will survive. Do you want to join us? Sheridan says, F that. He jumps off of a cliff, and the White Star nukes the main temple on Zahadum as the season concludes.
Well, there you go.
There it goes. It's a fun one. I feel like, just to get into sort of general thoughts, it was more mixed than I expected. Yeah. A lot of people told us that this was like their fate, one of the top seasons of Babylon 5, and it's one of the best sci-fi show seasons. And it is great. Like, I think there's a lot of it when it's good, it's just so good. Like, War Without End is just a star pair of episodes. It's very exciting when it wants to be. The problem is, like, when it's not, it just doesn't feel as confident as I think it should. Because we talk a lot about how, like, JMS had this whole show planned out and knew where things were supposed to go, but, like, along the way, there's a lot of, like, unnecessary moments or filler that didn't even make it into the summary at all that we're going to talk about. Like, just, there's a decent amount of fluff in these 22 episodes, which is frustrating because when things are happening, they are great. Great performances as always, and I'm, like, very invested in where this is going, but I want a more consistent season. What about you, Michelle?
Well, I actually think that it was a fairly consistent season. It's just that the level at which it was consistent is not where we wanted it to be. Mm-hmm. Like, I think the episodes are all consistently decent. There are very few that I was like, ugh, oh my God. Even some of the ones that we marked as lowlights are episodes that, thinking back on, I enjoyed to a certain extent, or there were parts or plots in them that were actually pretty good. So I think what's interesting about, or rather what's tough for us about covering season 3 is that I think we really have come to think about shows in terms of episodes, because that's how we cover. Like, we'd go 2 episodes a week. We've covered shows that are very strictly episodic. So, like, The Newsroom is definitely a story of the week kind of show.
Definitely.
Pushing Daisies was a procedural in a sense. Farscape had its swaths where episodes were definitely isolated from each other. And I think the only other show that we've covered that is so narrative driven as Babylon 5 was Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Exactly.
Which even that still was like, oh, this episode, because it's, a 30-minute tight focused chunk of storytelling. And I think what we found with season 3 of Babylon 5 is that the things to love about it are not like, there are some episodes that are really amazing, like this episode's great, but when we were sorting things into buckets, I think what we found is that the vast majority of episodes of this season fall somewhere in the range of like fine to pretty good, and they're kind of close to each other. So this is a season that's more memorable for like the moments where everything paid off, or the overall arcs of what's going on. And I think it works in that sense the way that reading a novel might work, where like, nobody's out there talking about chapter 5 of The Great Gatsby.
Right.
Right. That's not really how that discussion works, but they're talking about like the character of, Nick over the course of the book, or they're talking about this one scene in the middle. And so I think Babylon 5 season 3 kind of doesn't totally fit the way that we approach TV shows, because our approach in an episode like this has been so TV native up to this point, whereas this feels like somewhat of a different animal. And maybe we would feel similarly if we were covering like Game of Thrones or something.
Right.
I would assume that would have a similar feeling to it. Or like if we were to cover Mad Men, I'm sure it would feel a lot like this, where you look at Mad Men and you're like, yeah, it's mostly pretty good, but like,
I don't like remember moments.
I don't remember episodes of Mad Men.
Yeah.
So that's what strikes me about season 3. But like, I mean, there are some, just the way that the show is constructed, I think is so impressive. And I still have a lot of faith in the fact that we're going to keep getting consistently compelling and exciting narrative moves that fulfill promises that have been made before. And I think we just have to acknowledge again and again that is not something that you get very often in a television show, that the person at the helm is setting things up for a reason, and they're going to pay them off in spectacular fashion. And so the fact that you can have this dazzling moment where Rifa is murdered by a bunch of Narn, it took seasons of time to build that moment. And some of that building was a little forgettable or a little boring, because that's just how it goes. So that, I guess that's my impression of the season overall.
I think the novel comparison is really apt, because it was definitely written with a beginning, middle, and end in mind. And, along the way, whatever production trouble or network intervention is like probably the reason why we get, a lot of these lowlights that we are going to be talking about in episodes that just feel like they are not what you would see in a novel. It's just like, yeah, you don't get like filler in Neuromancer or in like Snow Crash. Like these are sci-fi books that tell a story, and like you said, you don't remember parts in the middle. You remember like little moments, but it's not like the middle of Snow Crash is good.
Like there's a difference between filler and exposition, or like filler and setup. Those are different things. Because Buffy the Vampire Slayer has filler.
For sure.
I don't think that Babylon 5 season 3 has a lot of filler, but it has a lot of exposition. So that's the distinction that I would draw.
Yeah, and when people mention that, like, we'll talk about season 4 in a bit, but this is no longer the season 4 is the season with zero filler. It's like, well, what is that? We have to really like drill down into what that word means then, because like this one technically like one person could define some of season 3 of B5 as filler. One person could say no, that's all exposition. It's all subjective. So that's our role as critics, is to try to piece together what we think the season is about. So that's what this recap comes
decide from. Like, to what extent is filler a universally bad thing.
Exactly.
To what extent is exposition universally useful or not useful? I don't know, because there are some, like, you could argue that passing through Gethsemane is a filler episode.
Right, but it's one of the best quote unquote fillers of all time. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Or like in Buffy, like Hush, you could argue is a filler episode.
Yeah.
Right. So I guess that sort of just gets into the words we use to talk about television.
What we say, what is it? What we talk about when we talk about filler?
Yeah, right. And the rock cried out, no hiding place.
Hey.
Okay. That one's not filler. I just thought the sentence was structured similarly. Should we get into the buckets of how we sorted things?
We super should have, especially because we're talking about how categories are frustrating and difficult, and we, in fact, categorized the season.
Yeah, we did what we could. We always... Our standard bucket arrangement is there are 4 buckets of quality here. We sort things into lowlights, fine, highlights, and essentials. And the kind of conversation we consistently return to in these is like, how do people watch TV nowadays? People will binge. I assume there are people out there who don't watch every episode of something.
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe they'll skip around.
The dreaded skip list.
Yeah. But it's weird because I would never do that. And yet for every show we've done, we've made a list like that.
Right.
Because I'm interested in the thought exercise of it. But basically the way each category works is lowlights are like, you can skip this, or like, just be ready, this one's not great.
Be aware, yeah.
Yeah, fines are, you're going to find things in them that you like. You're going to find things in them that are not that inspiring. And it's not the end of the world if you don't watch these. Highlights are, you should probably watch these because you can catch the bulk of what is exciting about the show within these episodes. And maybe they have some important plot moments. And then essentials are like, you're watching Babylon 5.
You're watching these.
You should watch these ones. Because they either contain like the big moments, or they represent central themes of the show, or they're just really fun. And that's kind of how it breaks down. So let's start with the lowlights. And I'll go first.
Sure. The
first lowlight that I want to talk about here is episode 7 of this season, called Exogenesis. Exogenesis is the center of this episode is it's a Marcus Franklin episode.
Mm-hmm.
About, like,
so good. That's a good combination. Yeah.
No, go ahead. Yeah, go for it.
That's definitely a good combination of characters that unfortunately are straddled with this like really unnecessary plot about a parasite that's infecting people in the down below, and it's actually a benevolent parasite that's trying to give them the knowledge of the world, and it's like, what are you going to do with that? You're going to talk about that and not really like do anything with it. It's a classic like Babylon 5 has ideas, and like people who are writing it clearly read good sci-fi and don't know what to do with that.
Yeah, I think what strikes me, I think what this episode represents is what is kind of lacking in the Marcus character.
Mm-hmm.
Because to me, Marcus is somebody who on paper represents an ideology that I think can challenge a lot of other characters on the show. He's very pragmatic, I think, because he's completely devoted to this mission of the shadows are the bad guys. We have to destroy them. My life is immaterial in that process. I'm not in it for glory. I'm in it to like accomplish what we need to accomplish. And I appreciated the way in which he and Franklin had some back and forth around like exactly what it means to help people and how society should be structured, but I just think it kind of fell short of being particularly exciting, and I don't know if that's how he's written or if that's the performer or what. But something about Marcus in general is like, it's cool. It makes sense to have a ranger.
Yeah.
And it makes sense for that ranger to believe the things that Marcus believes. But in practice, he doesn't always really feel necessary. And then the B plot is Ivanova is trying to decide if Corwin is suitable to join the Conspiracy of Light. And it's like, okay. He thinks she has a crush on him. That's kind of cute. But otherwise, it's kind of a throwaway plot.
Yeah. Can I get into my first low light?
Yeah, do it.
Sweet. So my first one, speaking of good ideas not handled extremely well, episode 13, A Late Delivery from Avalon.
Oh my goodness.
Oft maligned as one of either the most underappreciated episodes or just worst episodes of the series, depending on who you ask. This is the episode where Arthur Pendragon, the quote-unquote, comes to Babylon 5, makes friends with Jakar, and tries to be a vigilante for the Down Below. Good Down Below politics like that. I always like seeing the Down Below and them sort of fleshing out how those people live. But the Arthur character is obviously not Arthur Pendragon, actually. He's a man who had ideas planted into his brain and is coping by being this sort of vigilante. And it's definitely charming. It's definitely fun to see him and Jakar like be excited about justice, and Jakar's happy because it's finally a like good, objectively good thing to do. Is like, we're gonna beat up bad guys. There's no moral grayness with that for once, because everything on Babylon 5 is so morally gray. But
yeah,
I mean, nothing comes out of this episode.
It's it's interesting because I think JMS comes from a science fiction sensibility where early sci-fi writers are so enamored of fairy tale or folklore or things like that. So, I think early science fiction is very influenced by Arthurian legend, and it's influenced by pulpy mystery writing. So it makes sense that he's bringing in Arthur and he's riffing on Jack the Ripper. If you look at it through that lens or that phase of science fiction. But I think to us now, that just feels so incongruous because modern science fiction has gone through changes even before that point that he was making Babylon 5 and since then, to where those things don't really fit. It feels very like Doctor Who is the only show that can do that still.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it doesn't fit in the rest of the season, which is very like present and it takes place in this future world, and to bring in this Arthur character is like, what are you doing with this show?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. My second low light is one of these episodes I think I was alluding to, where it itself has a piece of it that is definitely filler, but then the other part of it is pretty good, and so it's kind of hard to categorize this one. Grey 17 is missing, which is episode 17. Nope, episode 19. Sorry. Mm-hmm. Grey 17 is missing. Is the part of it that sucks is Garibaldi finds a secret floor with a monster on it or something like that. That is what it is, but it's just absurd. Mm-hmm. And then the other plot is that, what's his face? Minbari warrior guy.
I can never remember his name, but I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, handsome, stern guy. He is considering murdering Delenn, and so Lanier and Marcus stop him, and that part's cool. I think that's what I'm saying about that plot is exposition, because it's setting up this Minbari class conflict thing that I would imagine we're gonna see more of later. But then the rest of the episode's just filler and boring.
Naroon is his name.
Naroon, yep. Thanks. What's your other lowlight there, buddy?
Oh, golly gee. Well, my other lowlight is one of the most frustrating episodes for me, because it just feels like they put their best foot forward with the first episode of the season, and then we come to season 3, episode 2, Convictions. Mm-hmm. And it's like, Babylon 5, what do you think your show is about? Because this is the episode where Garibaldi and Sheridan stop a terrorist who evokes the Unabomber.
Yeah, that one was just bad.
It's just, there's nothing redeemable about it. I mean, Sheridan puts like a comm thingy in his butt, and that's kind of funny.
No, it's not.
It's funny in a cartoon way. It's not funny in Babylon 5. Literally the only thing that salvages this episode, and again, it's like a good example of you guys had a cool idea and didn't do anything with it, was Jakar and Londo trapped in an elevator. They don't give that enough time. I would take a whole episode of that in a moment. Are you kidding me? They don't even do anything with it. So Convictions, don't even watch it. Just don't. It's bad. They beat the guy. He's a bad guy. That's it.
Yep. Okay, on to Fine. I think the first Fine one here is just episode 1 of the season, Matters of Honor.
Mm-hmm.
It's just setting the stage. Here's Marcus. Here's the Rangers. Here's our cool ship, the White Star. We're trying to get Earth off our backs. The Night Watch is onto us a little bit more. That's pretty much it. So you can watch it if you want to know what the first half of the season is going to start to look like. But in and of itself, it's not that special or exciting of an episode.
I honestly think a lot of the season premieres of the show so far are just like recaps and setup that you can kind of intuit just by watching the rest of the season.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, you don't really need them to tell you, like, here's what the Night Watch is. Here's what they're probably going to do. Here's this guy. It's like, no, just watch the episodes. There's good episodes that have them doing stuff.
Yeah, I agree.
And my first Fine episode is actually season 3. Oh, we don't even need to mention the season. We know what we're talking about. It's episode 5. It's Voices of Authority. There's some good stuff in this episode. Definitely Drawl's performance is always entertaining, and him and Sheridan and their conversations are pretty cool. This episode is mostly salvaged, though, by their performance of the actress who plays Julie Masanti, who's a new member from the Ministry of Peace, who kind of runs Night Watch and attempts to seduce John Sheridan. It's really funny. Her performance is very ridiculous and cartoonish, but in a good way, because she kind of comes into it assuming she's going to be like a cast member. Her character is very much like, guys, I'm here. Like, I'm friends with everyone. We all like me, right? And she just sucks, and she's mean, and she just gets naked for Sheridan to try to please him, and it doesn't work. And I mean, it's an entertaining episode. This is a good example of like, yeah, you should probably just watch this. Like, it's not going to like make or break your opinion of the season, but I did not dislike Voices of Authority. It's pretty fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You want to talk about your next one? Because I want to talk about my next two at the same time.
Sure. So my next one is episode 8, Messages from Earth, which is another one where like good things are happening. I mean, there's more Night Watch stuff, which I honestly kind of landed more on the negative side of, because I feel like it was built up a lot, and then just kind of was like Zach Allen is sad about having to be a cop, and then he turns face kind of by the end. The ISN stuff in Messages from Earth is good. What was the big thing, though? I'm trying to remember. There was like a thing, right?
From Messages from Earth?
Yeah.
That was the one where they went to Mars to try to destroy the Shadow ship.
Oh,
or
right.
Information from it or something.
Mm-hmm. And this kind of like sets the course for the rest of the season.
For the Shadow War stuff, yeah.
Right, because then they're like, oh, we can fight back. How do we fight back? We use this and this. Okay, so it's good. It's a good like directing episode, but
yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure how to feel about the Night Watch and Psycor and Earth stuff, because it felt super important in season 1. It felt like Psycor was like, they're the bad guys.
Yeah, we have bad guys.
Same thing towards the beginning of season 2. And then we pivoted towards the Shadows. And then the Shadows are kind of the core of season 3. But now it feels like at the end of season 3, we're done with the Shadows. And I'm not sure what's up with the human stuff. So I think maybe our impression of this stretch of episodes from 8 to 11, that's like all about the Night Watch and then like beating the Night Watch and getting free from Earth. Maybe our impression of it will change once we know more about where that goes.
Exactly.
Speaking of Psycor, my last 2 finds are both the 2 appearances of Bester in season 3.
Mm-hmm.
Episode 6, Dust to Dust, and episode 14, Ship of Tears. We've talked extensively about how we're just not sure about the characterization of Bester as a villain, because it seems like every time we see him, he's a little funnier, he's a little cuddlier, and it's like, what are we trying to do with this guy? To what extent are we scared of the Psycor or not? And I think these episodes muddled that a little bit. Dust to Dust, I will say the one part of it that's pretty cool is Jakar taking dust so that he can invade Londo's mind. That part is crazy.
Yeah. Super duper.
Awesome. The rest of it is Bester's helping Garibaldi investigate something, and it's like that's maybe the most boring character pairing you could tell me to watch. And then Ship of Tears, Bester is like, hey, there's a ship full of Psy-Corps telepaths, and yeah.
That's my wife.
Yeah, and then there's like a moment at the end where it turns out the lady he likes is like a Half-Life villain or something.
Yeah.
And it's this whole sequence of
she's
you
like
gotta
fused
shoot the
with
weak
technology.
spot. Yeah.
Yep. It's really fine. That's a good
It's totally that
example of it. I hope the thing is we're gonna keep seeing Bester because Walter Koenig, I mean, is like on this show, but to what extent? Like, what is Psy-Corps going to be in the future now? Are they going to be allies temporarily? Are they going to go full villain again? What are we doing? How does Lita relate to Bester? We haven't really gotten enough of that crunchy stuff that I want to see with them. I just still feel like there's a little bit of territory for Psy-Corps that they haven't touched, but this Bester stuff definitely felt like a step in a direction. My final fine episode is episode 18, which is a Walkabout. An episode that I thought, based on the title, would be a lot more exciting and sort of pensive. Although Franklin does continue his walkabout in this episode, it's kind of marred by the fact that his lesson just comes from falling in love with yet another woman. It's a lounge singer this time, and him falling in love with her, and then finding out that she has a lot of health problems and that she's taking medication to fix them, and he tries to doctor her and tell her, you can't take this medicine, you're overdosing, all this stuff, and then she leaves to get treatment, and he feels like a failure. He says, I haven't learned. And I like that he doesn't succeed in this episode. We've talked about that, but I mean, it just didn't satisfy what I wanted out of the Franklin plot, and that was what bummed me out.
Yeah, I agree.
This episode also features a new Kosh, who we literally have not seen since he came on the ship in this episode. The new Vorlon who calls himself Kosh.
Yeah.
Which is cute, but okay, now what bring him back. Let's see him again. Come on, let's get something with this guy. He's got darker armor, which is fun. And then I think there was and then the rest of it is nothing. It's Sheridan and Delenn fighting shadows and being like, man, death is bad. So not that worth watching, but it's okay.
Do you want to pause on talking about these and talk about the emails that we got this week?
I super do.
All right, let's take a look. All right, so our first email comes from Ryan. The subject line is Lovin' the Pod. Ryan says, hello. I just started my rewatch of Babylon 5 and have stumbled across your wonderful podcast and am enjoying your adventures through Babylon 5. You guys have really great personalities that bounce well off each other. Thank you. And your first-timer views on things are most enjoyable to hear. It's just delicious to hear the agony every Babylon 5 viewer, new and old, goes through that is Londo Mollari. At the point you're at now, who would you say are some of your favorite supporting and or minor characters? I really like Mr. Verini, the flamboyant Centauri minister at the start of Sick Transit Veer. How minor are we talking here?
I mean, I'm thinking Lou Welch. I'm channeling Lou Welch every day.
You're a Lou Welch man through and through.
Absolutely, born and raised, dyed in the wool. Lou Welch.
Oh, that's a good question. The first person that's coming to my mind is the dudes that were friends with Warren Keffer in that one episode where he had friends.
Where he was cool and people liked him. Yeah.
I like those guys.
Yeah.
Who died.
Who tragically died. Yep. Yeah, definitely Lou Welch. The show does this good thing with side characters where they don't really stay as side characters for long. So I would have said Zach Allen if you asked me earlier, but he became kind of more of a major character.
Man, dude.
Yeah, but good question. Always fun thinking about minor people.
I gotta take a look at Verini because I forgot. Oh yeah, I like Verini. Yeah, he's good.
He's great.
I'm a fan of him too.
Fabulous. And we get a back and forth in the next two emails. Our first one is from Nick, part of the dreaded Cullen Brothers
saw
Patreon war.
I just saw the beginnings of both of their emails. And
Yeah.
they're
So
there's a historiographical debate going on here.
exactly. So Nick's first email says, "Yes, Dan spoiled it. Sorry." Saying that the reveal that Delenn is related to Valen is further into season 4. I'll save the episode number. So I'm like, oh no. He goes on, while I don't disagree with your issues with the season 3 finale, I guess the cliffhangers are kind of fun to go, what? Because I can still remember that feeling back when it first aired. Yeah, I mean, yes. Every time the show ends with cliffhangers, I want to watch more.
I know that Sheridan's not dead.
Of course, we are adults.
Like, that's the kind of cliffhanger that's not really that exciting to me. I don't like the cliffhangers of like, uh-oh, they're dead. How are they going to come back? I like the cliffhangers that are, I don't know, different.
Like, honestly, the season 2 ending where it's like
the shadow footage got to Earth.
Yeah, it's like, what does that mean?
Good.
Yeah. That's a good cliffhanger.
Yeah.
And then he concludes with a very funny comment, which is, the more tired you are when you do the show, the more often you slip into Will McAvoyism. So I say yes to that. Cork. I'd love to call you, which is not a Will McAvoyism, but is a newsroomism.
Yeah, it's from the newsroom. Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Oh wow, Dan attached a flow chart to this.
Our fans go in.
This is awesome. Oh, the Triluminary thing. Thank God.
Yep.
All right. Yes, Dan. All right. The next email comes from our buddy Dan. Thank you, Dan, for this delicious morsel you're about to give us.
Dan Mail.
His commentary on Shadow Dancing and Zahadum. Dan Mail, that's right. It's no spoiler to know that Delenn is a descendant of Valen.
Fight!
It's just one of those things where all the evidence is there for it, and lore nerds like me like to connect the dots and proclaim Eureka. Among other things, that's why the Triluminary works for Delenn when she decides to have a metamorphosis. It never becomes a plot point that she's descended from Valen, but it could have been weird if she and Sinclair had some sort of Luke Leia kiss in the first season. Back in the day when the fandom put this all together, JMS had been saying that Valen lived out the rest of his life having no heirs, and after War Without End, we were like, JMS, were you lying to us? And his response was basically, yes, because the options were either to lie or to lay all the cards on the table, and it would be nice if you guys got some surprises. And further in the defense of JMS, for a good chunk of that time, he wouldn't have known that what would later become the Sinclair Valen story. That's true.
Right.
I don't know. He goes on to say, I don't know that Sheridan went to Zahadum specifically to nuke it like a big damn hero, but that's all in all caps. Like this is a TV Tropes article.
Right. Big damn hero.
But he definitely wanted to have those nukes in his back pocket. I think he went to Zahadum hoping for the best, but being prepared for the worst. I think he was willing to hear the shadows out, maybe even with the hopes of brokering peace. I don't think that his hopes were high, considering that he had some inkling that Anna wasn't the same Anna anymore, but he did give them a listen. It was only after everything went FUBAR, which stands for fucked up beyond all recognition, by the way, that's my addition, that he called down the nukes when he could have hit that button at any time. He was still trying to prevent a future where Centauri Prime was on fire. So does this mean that he has created that future then?
He's working towards it, I think.
Interesting. I wasn't a fan of the Justin character either.
If you could call him a character.
It made no sense to introduce a new character to be the face of the bad guys, especially when we already have two better established faces for the shadows with the characters of Morden and Anna Sheridan. It would be like getting to the end of a Legend of Zelda game, and right at the final boss fight, some guy we've never seen before or even heard of steps out and is like, forget about that Ganon guy. I'm the real bad guy here. And if he said his name was Justin.
Hey guys, it's
I'm
me.
pretty sure that's just not how bad guys work. What were you going to say?
I don't know if Dan intended this, but they totally do that in multiple Zelda games.
Yeah.
They're like, it's me, Aghanim. I'm the one bad guy of this game. And then, well, it kind of flips it. And then at the end, they're like, no, just kidding, idiot. It's Ganon. Don't be dumb.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what happens in Twilight Princess, that it's like, oh, no, it's all this other stuff. And then it's like, no, but it's Ganon.
But it's Ganon. Like, come on.
He's the bad guy. I'll be interested to hear your appraisal of Season 3 and what you're looking forward to in the later seasons. P.S. I've attached a chart to help make sense of the Triluminary situation without it being a paradox. because we were wondering if it was just like something that existed in time.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to walk you through this.
Yeah, I will post this with this episode. I'll post this flowchart on the Twitter account so people can follow along.
We start in 2260. The Triluminaries created on Epsilon 3. And Dan says actually 3 are being created if we're being technical, and I love being technical.
Bless.
Then Zathras brings the Triluminaries onto the White Star with his sensitive equipment and his vest, his raccoon tail vest. As it is with love, we don't see this, but it happens all the same. That's funny. Then, at some unknown time, Zathras and the 3 Triluminaries travel back in time with Sinclair, and Sinclair uses one of them to turn into Valen. Okay, so now we're back in the past. It's around 1260. Valen gives the Shadows what for, then restructures Minbari society, possibly creating their fetish for the number 3 in the process. During this time, Valen gives them the 3 Triluminaries. Then, from 1260 to 2258, the Grey Council hold on to the Triluminaries for hundreds of years, using them for induction ceremonies and possibly in other rituals that they weren't made for either. Then, at the end of Season 1, we have a choice in this flowchart. Whether they decide whether to give one to Delenn. They give one to Delenn in 2258. She becomes half-human, and she still has that one. And the other ones are with the council until they break, and then those are gathering dust in a Minbari cupboard somewhere. Okay.
Right.
So I think it's kind of what we said, that it starts on Epsilon 3, and that's the one that Valen gets.
Yes.
And it's not that Delenn gives him the one that she used, but that she uses the one that he used. Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah, it's actually it like seems complicated, but it's basically like it's brought back, it's used, and then it's held until it's used again in the future.
Yeah.
Unless it's not, in which case it just sits where it was.
Great.
Is the gist of it. Love it. Our next email is from Patrick, brother of Nick, who says, "Hey guys. Hi. I always like the finale of S3. I do agree that maybe a one-on-one debate would have been better between Sheridan and his opposite, quote, Justin. Oh, if they hadn't already met, Mr. Morden was always a better foil. Agreed. Facts.
Yeah.
As a non-religious person, I always thought it was a fun sci-fi explanation that the Vorlons have been manipulating the lesser races to want to work with or worship the Vorlons. We know that Sheridan knows this now, but he's still willing to be used by them, even with what is left of Kosh inside of his head, literally telling him to make a leap of faith during this suicide mission. It makes me think of that Arthur C. Clarke quote, any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. I think we've actually referenced that quote before. The show has, because it's very relevant. In regards to the call out by Zathras, spelled Z-A''Thras, a.k.a. my brother, Thick Nick. I upped the bidding war and have put up a $5 Patreon.
Oh, yeah.
So he can shove that challenge up his third space, a.k.a. the best Babylon 5 movie. Thanks again, Zathras, spelled Z-A-T-H'', a.k.a. Pat.
Oh, all right.
So the battle continues. The current bidding war is at $5 each. Please don't tear each other apart, but also thank you.
And then we have another email from Nick that is more of a broad chats email. Nick says, okay, I'm burning through the chats room season, our season on the newsroom, and I swear I am PTSDing on how I felt about the newsroom from listening to it. A constant feeling of, I like this show, I think, and I think I should like it more, but it keeps doing painful things. I can only imagine what an Aaron Sorkin version of the Women play/movie would be like. I don't know what that is. The Women.
It's a Claire Booth Luce play from 1936 on the pampered lives and struggles of various wealthy Manhattan socialites. Oh, no.
So while I wait between B5 episodes, I'm mixing things up between the chats room and the last Chatspender, which is really great, both the show and you guys. And FYI, I'm trying to do a lot more gym lately, so hence the quick episode listening count on my side. Nick trying to be a little bit less thick. It's good to be thick, you guys.
You guys need to understand that thick is good.
Thick is in 2019.
I mean, get in shape. I'm happy for you. That's awesome. And I'm really glad you're enjoying our podcast. I can never listen to podcasts at the gym. I need the energy, but if you're just doing cardio and you just want to listen to us talk about how Zuko is cute, you can do that for sure.
Yeah.
I love that we have. I also love that the emails this week have like an arc to them, all of them.
Yeah, that's great.
Between
more wars, please.
Babylon 5 season 4, more wars, please.
Yeah, we thought that it would create peace. It failed. So
we decided more wars instead.
Ready for wars now. You want to get back into the business of these episodes?
Oh, I do. I do.
So those are the fines, not the emails. The emails were great. The episodes were fines. Now we're going to talk about our highlights. So these are the ones that we are enthusiastic about and that we recommend you watch. The first that I'm recommending here is episode 11, which is called Ceremonies of Light and Dark. And the fun of Ceremonies of Light and Dark, it's twofold. One is we see Londo turning against the shadows explicitly and like threatening. I think this is when he threatens what's his face, isn't it? Rifa? Or does that happen later?
I believe that happens in this one.
Yeah, I think that happens here. And he's like yelling at Morden and like, I'm not going to work with you anymore. So that's pretty cool. Mm-hmm. And then Delenn, she gets captured by the Night Watch, whatever. That is what it is. But I think the ending of this episode is really special, where it's part of this ceremony that everybody is supposed to say something truthful, this like Minbari ceremony that's going on.
Yep.
And so everybody walks into Delenn's medbay room and says like an inner truth that they've been holding secret. I think that's a really cool scene. And I also think that this is an episode where Marcus is actually played pretty well off of somebody else. When he's with Lanier, and Lanier admits like, hey, I'm in love with Delenn.
Oh, God, forgot about that.
That's a really special moment for Lanier. And I just want to, pump up my boy. So that's that one.
I want to talk about episode 3, A Day in the Strife, which is an episode I didn't have any expectations for. But you know what I like is Narn politics. The introduction of Talon. I don't know if this is his first appearance, but he definitely gets a lot to do in this episode. Him and his big sword is just very fun. And there is an A-plot, I guess, about Sheridan having an alien probe that's making him see weird things and convinces him to go into space so that the probe can go home. It's basically an E.T. story. It's silly, but it's not the worst like fluff plot that we've had. There's definitely been worse. And just the Narn stuff and the performance between Jakar and all of the different men is very exciting and good, because it's like very good to have Jakar, in the center light and getting development and character work. So love to see it.
My second highlight is episode 12, right after episode 11, Sick Transit Veer. Because, I just love Veer.
I love love.
I love anything that has to do with love or Veer. Veer. And this is the one where we find out that Veer has been using the name Abrahamo Lincolni.
Oh, God, yeah.
To help Narns get to freedom. Veer has a position of power as an ambassador to Minbar at this point, and he uses it for good Veer things. So I think the motivation for both of my highlights was cool moments for side characters that I wanted to highlight. Okay. All right. You want to do your third one here, and then we'll talk about our last ones together?
For sure.
Okay.
I haven't done my second one yet, though, so can I do my second one first? Oh, wait.
Well, I'm reordering them now, so the one I want you to talk about is second in your list.
Okay, beautiful. I was going to say we should try to screw this like Applebee's Babylon 5 thing. We need to do Babylon 5 as Simpsons characters thing.
Okay. What's your hit there?
Well, just because Veer as Abraham Lincoln feels like the most Homer-ass thing I've ever heard. Guy Incognito. I think I made that exact joke in that episode.
Yeah.
I want to talk about episode 9, guys. It's Point of No Return.
Tell us about
what it is. You know what, Magellan? I will.
Okay.
In Point of No Return, Lady Morella comes onto Babylon 5, and she tells Vir, and Londo that one of them will be the Emperor of Centauri Prime, and the other one will also be the Emperor of Centauri Prime.
Yeah, that's fun.
And they take that weirdly, and that's not great, but it's interesting. And this is actually right after the Earth government has like declared martial law on Earth, so there's a lot of tension on Babylon 5, and Lady Morella's walking through all this tension and trying to like just understand any of it. And so it's fun for that reason. And then we also get the conclusion of the Night Watch plot in this episode.
Mm. It's like a fulcrum episode for the season,
right?
Which is why it's got the name that it has.
Yeah, this is the point of literally where now we're not dealing with the Night Watch, we're not dealing with Psi Corps, we're now going to be dealing with shadow stuff. So they trap the Night Watch in a room.
Of the season?
Point of No Return. Yes, it is.
Okay, yeah,
you are correct.
Our last highlights. Mine is season 3, episode 21, Shadow Dancing, and then yours is 22, Zahadum. I think we can talk about these together because we just talked about them.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
But my feeling about these is that it was a fine way to end the season, but there's something underwhelming, I think, about this being a concluding moment for the Shadow War stuff. And maybe it's going to continue, I don't know, but it just left this feeling of like, okay, cool. It was good, it was well executed, but I expected more, I guess.
Exactly. I think because we built up so much what's it called? We built up so much hype about the Shadow War and like what are they going to be like and are they going to have an ideology? And the answer is like, yeah, they do, and yeah, it sucks. And yeah, they're just villains. Yeah. So like on one hand, it's great that we have villains that we can fight and we know who they are and we have a face to them and we're like striking back and dropping these bombs, and that's like a big triumphant rah-rah moment. But it's also like what I want, like Babylon 5 needs to remember that absolutely the best stuff in this show is when people are just talking and having like long, important political conversations. That's just where the show succeeds the most.
Yeah.
Because like even though stuff like In the Rock Cried Out No Hiding Place is exciting from a plot perspective, it's still like good because of all the intense conversations and deliberations that led up to it. Mm-hmm. Whereas with Shadow Dancing and Zahadum, it's just like none of us, nobody's believing that Anna Sheridan's actually back. Nobody is like excited about this Justin guy. Other shows have done that type of character better. Like Morden doesn't have anything to do.
Just it's like a slight mis-execution of all this setup that had happened.
Exactamundo.
Yeah. But there's still great episodes and they're important to the plot, so that's why they're here. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about the big good stuff, huh? Let's get to those essentials. Essential oils.
Essential oils? Yes!
Yes. My first essential I'm not going to say the season number, is, let's start with episode 15, Interludes and Examinations. So, Interludes and Examinations, we did a single episode on it because it was so beefy and fun. It's the one where the shadows punish Londo by getting his lady Adira to die. They kill her.
Yeah, they basically set up the Londo Rifa conflict in this.
Yeah, and also this is the episode where Kosh is killed by the shadows. No! Because Sheridan forces him to get involved in the conflict, and now that he's involved, I guess their tacit, like, uneasy not fighting ends, and the shadows kill him in response. And we get this great sequence where Kosh is John's dad in his dream and trying to have a conversation with him about just everything that's going on. I think that's really well executed, and it's great is another great example of the Vorlons sort of being benevolent, but also being manipulative in a way that's really hard to parse.
I love Kosh. I was sad to see him go.
Yeah, I didn't think they would do that.
Mm-hmm. That honestly came out of nowhere for us. I did not know about this one, and so I came into this like, oh, this seems kind of exciting. Oh no, Morton's here. Oh no.
Yeah.
And this is serious. Like, this guy's not gonna come back. He's not resurrected. Although there is another Kosh, but that doesn't count. This is our Kosh. This is our boy. I miss him every day. Another essential episode from season 3 is episode 4, Passing Through Gethsemane. First of all, just shout outs to one of our best guest episodes of all time, because having somebody who comes from a religious background come on to talk about a episode about religion and how it defines us and allows us to be reborn in some way was a treat. So shout outs to Stefan, and shout outs to this episode for just being really freaking good. Like, the performances make it transcend what we usually define as filler. The reveal of who this man, the priest guy, actually is, and what he used to be, and the sort of like numb tragedy of seeing it happen again. Also like brings the monks plotline, which seemed completely silly when it was introduced in like episode 2. It was like, why are there monks? And this is like, oh, this is why there are monks, is for this exact thing. Does good things with like it like, you just don't see sci-fi handle religious storylines that well that often. They definitely try it, but like putting the themes of the show forward, amazing performances across the board, some good twists and turns. Like, this is just great television, truly.
It's wonderful, totally self-contained. So you can enjoy
just watch it.
Just watch it at any time, return to it, and yeah, it's awesome.
Bless you.
You want to talk about your next one because it moves into mine?
I do. My next essential episode is War Without End Part 1, which is episode 16. The War Without End duology is truly amazing and truly exemplifies how the structure of the show can succeed and propel it to new heights, because not only do we get the return of Jeffrey Sinclair and the lovely performances by Michael O'Hare, but we get a conclusion to his storyline that feels like it was always supposed to be there, and it works around his real life issues, and it just succeeds in like resetting so much of what we think the show is about too, because it's like, you thought we were just going forward, and we are, and but we're now not only going forward, we're in a new present. Like, we're not changing anything, we're just telling you and revealing to you that like, no, actually the show was planned, and the stuff within the show was planned by people that you're seeing. Like, an entire religion, an entire culture of people was defined by a single man from Earth because he was deemed worthy to do that. And that's just fucking amazing.
It's interesting to think about how like the past is another front in the Shadow War.
Right. This is not a present war entirely. Like, they've been doing it forever.
Stretches like across time.
900 years at least. Like, it's great.
The reason I wanted you to mention yours is because my second highlight is War Without End Part 2, which is episode 17. And so the other really exciting thing about this duology is that it previews the future for us in a way that we're still not sure if we're moving towards that future. There's an open question of, to what extent do we have free will in this Babylon 5 universe? Is Sheridan able to alter the course of events? Or like, are we going to get to this future where Delenn is locked up on Centauri Prime and Londo has a shadow thing inside of his brain and they have a son somewhere running around? It's pretty cool.
It's huge.
It was bold and totally shocking, and I think at the time we had some reservations about it, but I think this duology exemplifies just everything that is cool about Babylon 5 that you're not going to get somewhere else.
Right, this is exclusive. This is exclusive to Babylon 5 kind of quality.
Baby.
I think because War Without End 1 is all the like character development and like setup, and you're like, oh, Babylon Squared is coming back, and then War Without End 2 is just stuff happening really fast. It's great. I love it. This is the shit, man. My last essential episode is episode 10. It's called Severed Dreams. This is another good example of a fulcrum, another point of no return, if you will, where John Sheridan declares Babylon 5 separate from Earth government and its own independent ship station. Why do I always want to call it a ship? I can't believe my brain.
I think we're just used to, because from
Ships.
Farscape.
True. And every other sci-fi show calls them ship. Oh, I don't know. But regardless, Severed Dreams, I mean, that happens. The build up to that happening and the kind of realization that, like, yes, we do have to do this. This will be a good idea in the long term, but it'll seem really scary in the short term. And then it all builds up and you just see, bloop, the TVs all turn on and Sheridan's like, hey, guys, we're doing it. We're doing it. We're gonna declare our independence.
Yeah.
In the last few hours, we've learned that warships are coming this way from Earth. Their orders are to seize command. As commanding officer and military governor of Babylon 5, I cannot allow this to happen. President Clark has violated the Earth Alliance Constitution by dissolving the Senate, declaring martial law, and personally ordering the bombing of civilian targets on the Mars colony. He's personally responsible for the deaths of hundreds of innocents. Following these attacks, Orion 7 and Proxima 3 have broken away from the Earth Alliance and declared independence. Babylon 5 now joins with them. As of this moment, Babylon 5 is seceding from the Earth Alliance.
Whoa.
Ugh. Chills. Actual chills.
The last essential that I have here is episode 20, and the rock cried out, no hiding place. Best title.
Best title.
Maybe the best episode of the season, debatably. You disagree?
Convictions is right there, dude. Come on.
All right, dude. Yeah, you're right. Mm-hmm. What's wonderful about And the Rock Cried Out No Hiding Place is that it is completely character driven. You have the Sheridan Delenn stuff, trying to figure out their relationship, and I think we talked about some of the weird characterization there, but ultimately it serves an important purpose, and it feels honest to them, even if it's a little off. And then the climactic moment of the Narn dudes murdering Rifa is a moment that is accessible to someone who's like watching this as their first episode, and you just say, right, like, that dude's Jakar, this is who he is, that's Rifa, that's Londo. But it's also it is such a perfect moment of payoff for people who've been watching for seasons and seasons and know Londo, know Veer, they know Jakar, they know Rifa, and they know everything that's at stake and the history of violence and resentment that's been going on since the very first episode of the show. And I just thought it was awesome.
This episode and its build up is a good example of like how in real life history, it seems in a small, like from our view as just civilians, like, oh, history kind of happens in large swaths and it happens over time and it's invisible and we don't notice it. Mm-hmm. And this kind of thing, like these moments do happen where you go, oh shit, things are now objectively different than they were an hour ago.
That's a really good point, yeah.
Right? Like it often feels like nothing is happening and then suddenly everything happens.
Yeah.
They can't recover from this. This is such a season about marking a line in the sand and saying that's where we were and this is where we are. Let's go forward. Mm-hmm. And so I think this episode exemplifies that as truly one of the best.
Yeah, for sure. You want to get into predictions for season 4?
I do. So with the penultimate season of Babylon 5, no surrender, no retreat is what we're working with.
Fuck. Okay.
Yeah.
Go for it. What do you got?
Yeah. So I think definitely my main prediction is that we're going to get more of the Minbari Civil War stuff. Maybe that turns into open conflict. Maybe that's a lot of conversations in boardrooms. I obviously hope for the latter. We know that Garibaldi is missing again, so we hope we find out what's going on with Garibaldi, and he has a new haircut again. Veer and Londo, one of them either has to kill the other one, or they have to like never talk to each other again, a la Jakar and Londo. Mm-hmm. I don't know where to land with Londo anymore. Either he gets more, he will probably be more owned, right? Like he'll make more mistakes. He can't. Because I think I had said at the predictions for season 3, like, oh, maybe Londo will turn around. And even though he kind of did, he didn't get better.
Yeah, he's doomed at this point. Like
he's Zaha doomed.
He's Zaha doomed.
Nice. Thank you. Franklin definitely needs to have more to do now that he's done with his walkabout. He's got his job. He's helpful. He works for the Army of Light. Like he's gonna do stuff. He's gonna kill a shadow. Delenn is gonna maintain the Rangers because my prediction is that Sheridan, although he's gonna be fine, is gonna be like that unfortunate trope of kind of like damaged, where it's just like I'm sad or I'm going through a lot of trauma or I have a physical problem that means I can't do the normal Sheridan stuff.
Yeah.
Or he's just fine. I would think it would be kind of cool if they dealt with Delenn like taking that leadership role back again in the midst of all the Minbari stuff. But I mean, I don't know how willing they are to like put Sheridan in a compromised position. That's my sort of up in the air prediction.
Yeah, that's fair. I agree with that.
And
I feel like he's just going to come back fine.
Right? Yeah, it's like more likely.
Yeah.
And then finally, the sort of name for this trope, I call it getting the eye patch. It's when somebody like has something really bad happen to them and then they are just permanently changed. I think specifically that's going to happen to Marcus this season. Marcus is going to, quote, get the eye patch because he hasn't had a lot to do that's like directly related to the main plot other than like follow orders and work with Delenn and say that she's objectively good. I think this will get in the way of his relationship with Ivanova, and I think that he is the next person up for some sort of reckoning, like a character moment. I hope that. These are definitely hopeful predictions more than like realistic predictions because they could honestly continue to not do anything with him and I wouldn't be shocked.
I think he's more likely to get the boot than the eye patch.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, you mean he's going to get the Kefir?
Yeah. I don't see him lasting to season 5.
Oh, man.
So that's my guess. Okay, well, here's my predictions. And these are my real predictions, by the way.
Yeah, these are true in real.
Sheridan is dead, and he doesn't come back. Garibaldi is also dead.
Bummer.
This show is now a show with a whole new protagonist. A street-smart, no-nonsense, straight-talking lady detective from the mean streets of Minbar by the name of Dolores. Dolores is here to take names and take charge and take breaks, but she's already reached her mandated break limit, so she's only going to do the first 2 things now. Londo and Veer settle their differences and live together as roommates. Veer working as a school teacher and Londo living off his inheritance money. Will these two ever learn to understand each other's lifestyles and make it work? No. No, they will not. That's my real prediction, but not really. Here's what I actually think. We've said a lot already. JMS is someone who, if he sets something up, he's going to pay it off. At least that's my understanding of him. Mm-hmm. And these are the things that have been set up that I don't think have been paid off yet. The Minbari stuff, like this dude wanting to kill Delenn, I think that's going to be a thing. The fact that the Vorlons are shitty, that seems like that's going to go somewhere. And Earth is still under martial law. And the Psi Corps are still exist. Those are the 4 things that I'm like, what's gonna happen there? What are we doing?
What's the dealio?
In terms of individual characters, we're kind of in this interesting situation where I feel like everybody has gone through an arc that's been paid off. I think maybe Jakar is the only person I have a question mark about right now. Mm-hmm. Feels like maybe he's going to do a heel turn soon because he's been good for a while. And I think maybe he's going to start getting resentful of like, I've given so much to this cause and we haven't gotten anything in return. And I don't know. It feels like that's where that's going to go. But I'm not sure.
Bro, I'm sorry to like pivot. I just hope the effects get better next season.
They won't. I mean, they won't.
All right, we're realistic. I don't think
we're gonna have that switch to HD widescreen in this span of time.
In 1997, yeah, probably not.
That's not gonna happen.
Alas, man, I'm excited. I want to watch it already. Magellan, can you tell me what we're watching next week on Chatzylon 5?
I sure can. Also, here's what I'll say to you, man. Just from the brief skimming I've done of episode summaries, do not read any of them, okay?
Really? Of the Amazon ones even?
Please, you should not read any of them.
Okay, wow.
Because they all have like I feel like every single one that I accidentally read a part of has something that I'm like, whoa. Shit. Even these maybe.
Does somebody want to read, just like write us better summaries?
These are like a little spoilery.
All right, I can take my headphones out.
Yeah, you should do that.
All right, just beat me when you want me to.
I'll call you beep you if I don't reach you.
Thank you. Thank you. Here we go.
All right. Next week, we're watching 2 episodes of Babylon 5, Season 4, Episodes 1 and 2. First, we're watching Episode 1, The Hour of the Wolf. Sheridan is missing and presumed dead. The Centauri's continue to ally with the Shadows. Then, we're watching Season 4, Episode 2, Whatever Happened to Mr. Garibaldi. Jakar finds trouble while searching for Garibaldi. Sheridan hovers between life and death. All right, well, that's fun. Alan, come back.
Hey, I'm back.
Hey, I'll tell you the titles.
Yeah.
The first one is The Hour of the Wolf, and the second
Ooh.
one is Whatever Happened to Mr. Garibaldi.
Oh, shit.
So that's when we can do our spin-off show about Whatever Happened to Robot Jones.
Yay, I knew it was coming, finally.
Yeah.
I'm so
Whatever
excited.
happened to... I'm just trying to see what thing that's all based on. What title are they all riffing on? Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. It's a movie from 1962.
Okay, there we go. It's just a fun turn of phrase also. Like, it doesn't... I don't know if it was necessarily based on that, but maybe.
Yeah, maybe it's just a thing people say.
Regardless, Magellan, this has been a lot of fun. The thing I like about the season recaps is, like, it's all pretty self-contained. If you are new to chats, welcome. You should listen to our regular episodes as well. You should, if you're new to Babylon 5, check out our previous season 1 and season 2 recaps so you can be all caught up. You don't have to listen to every episode if you don't have the time, but they're all pretty good. I think if you listen to those at faster speeds, that would be faster than just watching the show, probably. Because we do 2. Yeah, we do 2 a week. That's definitely a more expeditious way to enjoy Babylon 5 if you're tight on time. And let us know what you think of these episodes, because we love to hear from you.
Yeah.
To pivot to our plug zone, you can email us at chatspod@gmail.com. If you have questions or comments, like our other wonderful listeners, you can tweet at us at chatspod on Twitter, where we post things about the show, and I'm going to be posting graphs and charts and all sorts of things. Patreon.com/chatspod is where you can unlock a whole new world of chats content. At $2 a month, you'll get commentary chats, where Magellan and I watch a movie, and we record our audio of us watching it and talking about it and laughing at it. And you can do that and listen to the movie with us.
Mm-hmm.
We've been doing a lot of those. There's a huge backlog of them. It's honestly an amazing deal. Just $2 a month, you get the entire feed.
I think
and
so.
then at $5 a month, you get Chats Nights, which is a bi-weekly show where we usually just hang out and talk about things or talk to each other as friends. But if you're a $5 or more backer, you can recommend us something and then say, hey, Alan and Magellan, can you guys watch a thing? Can you guys listen to a thing? And we will do it, and we will talk about it on Chats Nights.
And we had a pretty good month in the month of May. We doubled our backers in May, which was awesome.
Yeah.
So if you're a new backer and you want to tell us why you backed, so that we can try to figure out how to bring in new people, you want to tell your friends about it, or if you're someone who loves the main show but isn't a backer and you want to tell us something that would entice you to do that, we'd love to hear that too, because ultimately this is a show where we're making stuff for you guys as well as for us. And maybe we'll cook up some incentives and we'll come back to you with ideas that we have as well.
Definitely. You're our partners by backing us and by listening in general, but definitely by backing us, you get to be on this trip with us.
Yeah.
On this damn station. Briefly, shout outs to all of our current patrons. Jonathan, Kat, Landon, Marcus, the Cullen brothers, Nicholas and Patrick, they're in their eternal conflict. Fendon, our longest time donor, and my friend Six, my co-host and one of the best humans out there. You're all wonderful, and we appreciate you so much.
Yeah,
we wouldn't do this without you. We truly love you. And if we eventually hit that beautiful, beautiful $50 a month point, we will no longer need any. We will not be putting any money into the podcast that's not coming back to us. So it'll finally be a hobby and a thing that we love to do that can break even, and that would be wonderful. So Patreon.com/chatspod. Check it out. John, what's your chatsum for this week, kid?
My chatsum for this week is actually double chatsum. If you're looking for things on Netflix that are funny, how about that? One is there's a sketch show on Netflix called I Think You Should Leave. What's the guy's name? It's this guy. Let me look it up. I Think You Should Leave.
Tim Robinson?
Tim Robinson. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And they're just, like any sketch show, there's some stuff on there that's like not that funny, but a lot of the sketches are like feel really fresh and bizarre in kind of a Tim and Eric way, except they're not just like, this is how my roommate put it, and I agree with this. They're not just like as weird as possible for the sake of being weird. They're like weird in a very precise, purposeful, new way. And he just makes some moves. Like it'll be kind of a, what's the word I'm looking for? Like a typical sketch premise, and then he'll make some moves that are genuinely surprising and make you think like, oh, there's actually still a lot that can be done in the world of sketch to make it fresh and interesting. So I recommend that. And then The Lonely Island put out this 30-minute visual album, I guess is the best word for it, called the Bash Brothers Experience, or the Unauthorized Bash Brothers Experience. And it's 30 minutes of them doing rap and R&B songs where they play Jose Canseco and Mark McGuire, the baseball players. Mm-hmm. And so it's kind of just a loose set of songs about how they're like super steroided out and they want to have sex with people. But also they do this like, they call it a visual poem, and there's some like, bits of them doing weird monologues over shots of trees and stuff. And it's one of those things that you're not going to be like laughing your ass off, but you're going to watch it and be like, they did exactly what they were trying to do. And that was strange in a really enjoyable way. And I'm glad I watched that. Yeah. What about you?
I am still on my 2019 albums bullshit. This year has been very good for music. I actually just last night went into the city to see Jamila Woods live in concert. Jamila Woods, a Chicago-based artist, has featured on a lot of stuff and had just put out her first solo album back in 2017. She had a lot of great features with people like No Name on that album, and she's worked with Chance the Rapper. She's actually, Magellan, for you, the girl who does the chorus on Sunday Candy.
Oh, yeah.
That's Jamila Woods. Which is a wonderful song, but she put out an album actually at the beginning of May. It's called, in all caps and with an exclamation point after each word, Legacy, Legacy. It is really great because, so I haven't even explained what kind of music it is. It's very like R&B, hip-hop inspired, very like chill, relaxing music to listen to. Legacy, Legacy is a 13-track album where each track is named after and about a different like artist, a different Black artist, be they writers, singers, poets, from all genres and all types that inspired Jamila Woods to create. So Eartha Kitt, Miles Davis, Basquiat, Sun Ra, James Baldwin, so just like influential figures in history. So Legacy serves as both a good history lesson for like people you should know the names of, and also it's just a very like soothing, nice album to listen to both live and through like whatever music. It's wonderful. It's really great to see artists like bring together their influences in a literal way like that. Like she has a song about Frida Kahlo, actually, who you mentioned on a recent Chatsum. The song is called Frida, and it's about her and her partner who, even though they loved each other, lived in separate houses with a bridge between them. She's like, there's something romantic about that, and she kind of gets into it in that song. So, just a very unique and good time.
Sweet.
Very sweet. And that, dear listener, is going to do it for this chunky episode of Chats, the television podcast. Peace.
Bye.